Welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. It's one of the year's biggest events. Prime Minister Modi will formally inaugurate the Ram Temple on the 22nd of January. Now, the Confederation of All India Traders says the Ram Temple could generate nationwide business worth rupees 50 crore. That's one of the segments that we're going to be talking about today. And joining me to discuss this are Dr Ankit Shah, author and geopolitical analyst, and Mr B.C. Bhartia, National President of the Confederation of All India Traders. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Dr. Shah, break down for us the significance of the inauguration of the Ram Temple on the 22nd of Jan.
Well, that this is not just a Pran Pratishtha of Ram Lalla. This is actually a Pran Pratishtha of Bharat. And when I say this word, there's a lot of hazy picture about how for 1800 years this geography has been giving more than 50% to the world GDP, 27% on an average to the world GDP, along with China 50%. And the question comes, if you were giving that much contribution, economic contribution to the world, what exactly was the institution you had? Because this criticism comes that the West gave you all kinds of institutions. So the institution which we had was the Mandir. So it is a Mandir ecosystem's revival, which is important not just for Bharat, but for the whole world, because the entire life cycle economics of the planet was running through the Mandir ecosystem. It is only the Mandir towns which survive till eternity. Something can happen to California, something can happen to Chicago, something can happen to New York, but nothing can happen to Kashi. Nothing would happen to Ayodhya. Nothing would happen to Tirupati. These Mandir towns survive till eternity in terms of economics. Now, why that is so? Because the entire economics is based on what we call as the life cycle principle of Dharma. What does that say? So there's a difference between the economics of Bharat and the economics of the rest of the world. The rest of the world is saying that you are the body and soul is just a vehicle, which means you have only one life, which is why the rest of the world follows the economics focusing on the material factor of production. What ancient Bharat says, you are the soul, body is just a vehicle, which means there are life cycles. Now, if you have life cycles, your economics is going to be focused on the man factor of production, not the material factor of production. So it is because of this Mandir ecosystem, which were not just the banking, it was related to agriculture. It was related to the festivals which were linked to the Mandir activities and the Tithis month-wise, which played the role of the cash flow in the entire system without having any central bank, like the modern central bank. So right from the processions of the monarchs, be it a family festivity, a royal birth, the procession of a new king, each and every family event was revolving around the Mandir ecosystem. Right. This is how the economics played. Absolutely. On an autopilot mode.
That's really interesting, and this is something that we tend to forget, how temples in ancient India and medieval India were actually what the Reserve Bank of India is today. It was like the center of economic activity of kingdoms and empires. Mr. Bhartia, what kind of business do you see the Ram Temple bringing in for the Confederation of All India Traders and indeed the Indian economy in the next couple of months?
You see, Sandeep, if we go by economics of our country, religious programs have always been the focus of economic activity at lower level.
Right.
We have melas and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Now everybody is talking only in respect of Pran Pratishtha at Ayodhya Dham.
Right.
We are not looking at Ayodhya Dham. We are going by the intentions of our Honorable Prime Minister. The whole country, the whole population is going to celebrate this.
Right.
Okay. That's why we have come out with this 50,000 crore business. People may be looking only at Ayodhya Dham. That is only the center of attraction. But in name of Ayodhya Dham, the appeal of our Honorable Prime Minister that everybody in all temples, this celebration should take place.
Right.
Can you imagine the amount of business that will be generated even in smallest of the village, in remotest of the tribal area, where things will be bought and sold,
Right.
and it will be sold by whom? By local people,
Right.
by traditional businessmen, not by corporates, not by in malls.
Right.
So money will be coming at the lowest level,
Right.
and then the chain will go up.
Right.
And this chain will further generate money.
Right.
So we are looking at a very big event economically. Religiously, okay, but
Right.
economically, we are seeing a very big event which is moving towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, local going global. All these
So,
are pinned in.
Mr. Bhartia, you
Yes.
know, the figure, how did you come up with a figure of 50,000 crore across the country? I mean, is there a particular time period in which this is going to be spent? Is it a ballpark figure, or have you done some kind of research speaking to your Confederation and the traders?
You see, definitely it is an estimate. But our research team, how many houses? We say at least 80 crore of population will be celebrated.
Right. Dr. Shah, do you see the Ram temple actually becoming the most valuable religious property in the years to come, in terms of, you know, the way it's been set up as well, the kind of infrastructure that's being built around it, the airports, the railway stations, the highways? What is it going to look like in the next 5 or 6 years? Is it going to become like what temples were in, you know, in, as you mentioned, in ancient India, literally, the center of economic activity?
Exactly. So you'll be surprised to know. I mean, the shift of the civilization from the statement that people used to say, Uttar Pradesh jana mat, koi gunda aapko loot lega. From that, the shift has come to, मैं वहां जा रहा हूं, सब कुछ लुटा के आऊंगा. That is the civilizational shift which is coming.
Yeah.
So I think 50,000 crore is a very small amount. I mean, our panelists being very modest about it. The celebration economic size is going to be very big.
Right.
The first corridor which I see is going to be Mithila Ayodhya Lanka corridor, which will be built.
Right.
With Ayodhya as the central node of Mandir ecosystem across from Saudi Arabia on one side to Laos, Cambodia on the other side.
Right.
You shouldn't be surprised in this decade if you find in the entire Southeast Asia and the Middle East coming up with the Mandir ecosystem.
Right.
Because everyone has now an economic realization, geopolitically speaking, that Mandir ecosystem is the only permanent cash flow method
Right.
without sudden interventions coming from the banking systems to bring the economies out of crisis.
Right.
So I do believe that this entire tourism which goes around the Mandir pilgrimage is going to have massive focus. Not just that, when you see the Southeast Asian countries, I mean, right, starting from Sri Lanka to Thailand to Vietnam, all these countries saying visa-free travel for Indians.
Right.
So all of them, when the tourists go there, geopolitically speaking, there will be a demand for Mandir ecosystem across this greater Indian subcontinent, or what we call as the Bhartia Upmahadweep.
Right,
So
indeed.
don't be surprised if the multiple economies get a stake in the Mandir ecosystem.
Absolutely. As it goes on currency notes, in God we trust. Deepak, you had a question on this. Kumbh Mela, another event on our festive calendar. More money to be spent, more money to be earned.
Yeah, and like again, drawing upon the Mandir ecosystem reference that was given a short while ago. So, if we recall the discussion, mandirs back in the day were not just religious institutions, they were socio-economical institutions. And we're hoping that the Ram Mandir will act in the same manner. But I would want to bring our guests' attention to the local economy. They've already mentioned about bridges, flyovers,
Yes.
and the like being made. Could they elaborate more on what's happening in the ground and how is the Ayodhya of today reacting to these changes?
Ankit, you want to take that query from Deepak about that 15,000 crore
sure.
package?
So, what we saw the Prime Minister inaugurating numerous projects on that day, on 30th December, and we know how he's very particular about why he selects particular dates for events. The entire geography of Ayodhya is not just going to see an economic rejuvenation. Eventually, what we are looking at Ayodhya as is going to become a center for geopolitics. It is also going to become a center for geoeconomics. Now, when we say that, what do we mean? We mean to say that this is the only civilization which celebrates ethical profits as a community festival. So it's not a surprise that when you have in Diwali the celebration of Dhanteras,
Yes.
that you find that the entire socio-economic of family unit entrepreneurship model being empowered with this kind of business.
Right.
Now, on ground, what does that translate into? Every family or community which are working on this specific customized products which are consumed during these days of celebrations are going to be empowered, not just with business, but there is a sense of social congregation and social benefits in terms of the psychological state of mind of people and the confidence that it brings along in terms of your succession, that you are owning this entire history of this nation as a piece of geography. So Uttar Pradesh as a whole, not just crossing $1 trillion of economy through this decade, but you will see that this entire chunk of land which is named as Ayodhya becoming a hub, as a tourist spot hub, even for the foreign tourists who are not just going to come to learn about what is the difference between religion and dharma, but in terms of spiritual economics, in terms of academic economics as well. Because mandirs were also Gurukul, the Gurukul campuses used to be in the mandir
Absolutely.
ecosystem.
Yeah, and
So
thank you very much.
eventually
I'm
shouldn't
afraid
be
we're totally out of
surprised.
time, Dr. Ankit. Very important points there. The fact that Ayodhya is once again going to become a center of geopolitics and geoeconomics, as you mentioned. And I'd like to thank you very much for your insights, Ankit and Mr. Bhartia. We'll be tracking the story very closely, of course, in the run-up to the
Thank you.
22nd of January. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's one of India's biggest redevelopment projects, and it aims to transform Asia's biggest slum, Dharavi, into a vibrant economic engine. But of late, there's some politics around the redevelopment of Dharavi. And joining me to discuss this today are architect Shashi Prabhu and veteran political analyst Sanjay Jog. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Mr. Prabhu, why is it that Dharavi has always been in the center of politics, right from 1985 onwards, when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, the Prime Minister, set off this project to redevelop the slum? Of course, nothing happened of that. But, there have always been attempts to redevelop it, and now the reason we're talking about it is Mr. Uddhav Thackeray has taken up this Dharavi redevelopment project as one more example of what he calls crony capitalism. What do you make of all of this, the politics behind the redevelopment of Dharavi?
Sandeep, I have been tracking this Dharavi since, Mr. Prabhu is a veteran architect.
Yes.
He has been in the know of Mumbai and its redevelopment board. But as a journalist both covering politics and infrastructure, I've been tracking it for over 3 decades. As you rightly said, there have been many attempts being made since 1985, basically to redevelop what is termed as Asia's one of the biggest and the third largest at the world level, the slum which is known as Dharavi. But successive attempts have failed, thanks to politics, thanks to economic, and thanks to vested interests too. Now, as you rightly said, suddenly the Congress at the national level and at the state level, they are targeting this government, basically, which is termed as a Mahayuti government in Maharashtra, basically as an award of the contract to Adani Group, which is almost 5,000 plus crore project. It's quite obvious, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has made repeated, allegations about Adani and how now this project has gone to the same Adani Group has been a major bone of contention. But as you rightly said, on 16th of December, Uddhav Thackeray made a major kind of a show as he took out a morcha, and it was not just Shiv Sena Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray morcha, but it was all communists, Congress, NCP, and a couple of others. They
Right.
also joined hands, basically to take up the issue. Now, what is the major contention? As per the opposition, this project has been as if given like a major cake to Adani's. One of the arguments. Secondly, even though what the government claims that a transparent bidding process was carried out, they are saying, or in fact alleging, that the entire tender or a bid was structured so that the Adanis can come in. This is a very interesting and a very, kind of a major allegations by the opposition. Third, very interestingly, just to recall, as you rightly said, in 2007, in 2009, in 2011, 2016, couple of attempts were made basically to award the project. When Fadnavis government was there, one of the settling was given, but somehow it could not take off during the Mahavikas Aghadi government. So, by and large, as in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections and later the assembly elections are going to happen in Maharashtra, this is definitely going to be a hot cake for both the ruling and opposition. On the ruling side, Mahayuti is definitely in favor of the redevelopment that is to be expedited. What they are saying, this is the much awaited, much debated redevelopment. It should take place without further delays and controversy. In fact, they are countering the opposition charge that as if the project has been structured to Adani. In fact, they are saying the entire tender was kept like that, which was there even during the Mahavikas Aghadi government. So nothing has even changed.
Mr. Prabhu, I want to bring in Mr. Sanjay. I want to bring in Mr. Prabhu here on this state where, do you see the politics behind this? As Sanjay was pointing out, Mr. Prabhu, the fact that Maharashtra is going to see 2 elections this year. You have the Lok Sabha elections, and then after that you have the assembly elections. What are the chances that a project like this, once it becomes politicized, political parties start taking it up and attacking each other over it, what are the chances that this could actually be delayed? Now, this is a project that Mumbai has needed for over 4 decades. Do you, as an urban planner, do you feel that this politics could derail this very critical slum redevelopment project?
Let me start with a note that we were given a chance or opportunity to survey entire Dharavi area. Dharavi is a complex city. I would like to call it a city because it's a part of the city.
Right.
Because there are people who have a cottage industries. People reside there. People come and go. People sleep in a rotation. We went to assess the total population. We could not do that Herculean task in 2.5 years. We are struggling. Now, basically, whoever wants to get into that, he has to start from the survey and try to understand what is the local people try to do there. Do they come there and reside, or do they have the cottage industry? What do people do? Because there is a tannery, there are people who are doing different kind of businesses. In the global scenario, people are manufacturing so many products for other countries and export them. So it's a complex issue. It is a dense populated area. So one has to look into this in a holistic approach, and somewhere you have to start, but you can't really demolish something and get to there. There is a fright in the mind of the people, I assume, that it will be completely demolished and restart, which Adani, like is very senior industrialist, will never do. They will analyze the entire project critically and then get into this.
But do you think, Mr. Prabhu, do you think the politics of this is actually going to, create more hurdles? Like one is, of course, you mentioned the physical aspects of this project, so complicated. It's got socio-economic reasons. I mean, it is an industrial hub. But the fact that the politics now gets into it, does that kind of make a lot of government officials, builders and all that wary to stay away from this?
Yeah, basically, if we try to put a fear in the mind of the people try to shy away. Though Mr. Adani is, that particular group is showing the interest.
Yeah.
Probably they must have done the study in depth, because it is a long-term project. It cannot be done in a month and a year.
Right.
See, we have to start at some end and end up by spending something 5 to 7 years. It's a large chunk. People are doing their businesses. You have to take very carefully and then look at the different angles at different times.
Right.
So I really appreciate Adanis have shown the interest,
Right.
and they keep on showing that interest and then push forward.
Sanjay,
To
now
protest something.
Yes. Sorry, Mr. Prabhu. Please go ahead.
No, no. It's easy to say something if somebody is getting in that there is a tons of money, etc., which
Yes.
is not true.
Right.
The hard efforts, Adani has to put in,
Right.
cannot be calculated in terms of money returns. So
That's
the
right.
money will be there, but after hard working in that area.
After
It
decades.
is not easy
Yeah.
to talk to people, to convince them,
Right.
bring them together. Because people are fragmented, everybody has his own business, everybody has his own interest. It's a complex portion of Mumbai.
Right. Sanjay, since you've been monitoring this project for many years, especially in the last couple of years when Uddhav Thackeray was the chief minister, that's when this project kind of gathered some kind of momentum. Now, how does he turn around and oppose this award to Adani when this is the project that he had kind of overseen as chief minister? I mean, what explains this U-turn?
Sandeep, I have been tracking politics. You also know, you have been in Mumbai. If an opposition is raking up some issue and becomes, a ruling establishment,
Right.
they will certainly try to glamorize this project. But
Right.
when you are suddenly in opposition,
Yeah.
obviously the projects which have been cleared, approved, discussed,
Right.
debated, suddenly becomes a better noir.
Yes.
And they create a kind of a scenario. I think the same thing has happened because Mr. Thackeray right now, maybe as politically it says, maybe down, but certainly not out.
Right.
As he is definitely looking at Mumbai. He has been all the time saying that, it has been a kind of a draconian plan allegedly by the BJP-led government, basically to declare Mumbai as a union territory. So if you are bringing in or giving a kind of a red carpet treatment to Adani's, so that will be a kind of a part of the same plot. So he definitely has to take up this issue. But how far will he achieve his target? That is going to be seen because, as Mr. Prabhu said, on the 300 hectares of land, there are 58,000 families are residing. Apart from that, there are small cottage industries which are up and running right now. So the entire economy is of a multi-crore. So on the one hand, if it will be, it will be another kind of a BKC which is in making. On the other hand, if the government and Adanis are definitely carrying out this project in a transparent manner, then this much awaited redevelopment has to take place. But Sandeep, I'll just give two issues, that needs to be addressed very thoroughly by the government as well as Adani. The local residents to whom I met a couple of times recently also after the Mocha and previously, that they are saying the eligibility and ineligibility survey which is being carried out, which is nothing but a farce. I think the government and Adani will have to come clean on this. And secondly, they will also have to assure them that, whatever has been the promise which has been made, what they are saying is that how the tenement will be much bigger than the SRA unit, that needs to, basically materialize. And the third, the investment that they are doing, it should be made open so that they will have a faith that Adani is not just interested for self-interest, but they are also interested for the betterment of the community and the entire redevelopment of Dharavi.
Right. Thanks, Sanjay. And Deepak, you had a question on Slumdog Millionaire, or was it Slumdog Billionaire?
So actually, I just want to, the last point that Mr. Sanjay was talking about, that is the people, 58,000 families that are living in the world's largest slum. So Sir has mentioned some aspects of the general mood about the project. But what is the wider sentiment? What are the fears and aspirations of these people? They're the poorest of the poor, or they wouldn't have been living in Dharavi of all places. So if you could elaborate a little more on that.
Oh yeah, okay. No, Sandeep, just to tell you that you were also there in the Express. Mr. D.M. Uturn is a former municipal commissioner, the chief secretary. He had come out with a very interesting he laid a committee. He came out with a very interesting observations about if the Mumbai is going to grow vertically, there will be a couple of issues the residents are going to face. The same fate to whom I talked to a couple of Dharavikars, they are raising. If at all they go to a high-rise building of 50 stories, 60 stories, how are they going to meet with the necessary arrangements when it comes to infrastructure, the property charges, the water charges and whatnot? Secondly, what will happen to the cottage? And even though government is saying that there will be a special area that will be carved out, but will it be will it be shown to the existing cottage and mini industries? That is going to be another issue. And a third, looking at the decaying of the infrastructure in that area because of the, a densely population, how the government as well as the MMRDA, BMC and a couple of other agencies are going to give a much of priority for a major makeover. I think these are the issues. They are definitely, in the minds of the Dharavikars that needs to be addressed. And I strongly feel the government, the policy makers and Adanis will bring all those, Dharavikars on board and take them into confidence to expedite this project, which should not be a kind of one of the projects which was completed in a reckless manner or in an hassle. That is going to be the major question that needs to be addressed by all those concerned stakeholders.
Right. Mr. Sanjay, thanks. Mr. Prabhu, just as a town planner, what do you think is a reasonable horizon to expect a fully redeveloped Dharavi as is being envisaged by the state government? How many decades would it really take to transform things? Because cities are not built in years, I guess they're built in decades, especially in Mumbai.
See, today everything is coming at a throwaway price for them. Electricity, residential, no taxation for some of the people. Suddenly you are going to get caught into this. And people are scared about this. In our survey, people were openly saying so. We are not paying anything for anything and we are getting everything in the terms of profit. Today, the whole area is considered as a cottage industry. People are doing business. People are getting money. People are, I don't know whether paying the taxes or not or what, but it's a different kind of issue. And one has to go very carefully into the entire scenario. And people like Adani, they will definitely must have done the study. And before saying the yes to the government, probably other people who are done and gone into the area, they must have already captured, the complete area scenario. So I don't think Adani will definitely get into this without any kind of survey and the future planning. So according to me, outwardly we can say that he is getting into this because of profit element, etc., which is wrong. It is a long gestation period for anybody to enter into Dharavi.
So it's not so much of a profit thing. It is actually something of a landmark project that would be associated.
No, that will come automatically landmark project.
Yes.
But the initial lot of investment and then duration of the project has to be considered. So you have to have tenacity. So invest and wait and watch.
Right, invest, wait and watch, and in fact that's the motto as far as Dharavi is concerned. It's one of the most complicated urban redevelopment projects of all time, and it's been almost half a century since literally we've been trying to redevelop this part of Mumbai. But I'd like to thank you once again, Mr. Prabhu, for your insights. My friend Sanjay, thank you very much, and Deepak. That story you can watch on our platform, Adani versus Uddhav Thackeray, only on News9 Plus. Download and watch. On December 29th, an interesting video surfaced on Telegram. It shows an Indian volunteer in Russian military service. Joining me to discuss this very interesting video is my colleague Deepak Badana. Deepak, tell us what you saw in that video.
So we see three people who are introduced as volunteers to a Russian lady, presumably in the Russian ground forces as well.
Right.
Now, the person introducing them is identified as a Russian. We know that he's a fluent Russian speaker. We never see him on screen. Nor do we see the lady who is identified as Svetlana.
Right.
Of the three people that we see, one of them is supposedly somebody from Somalia with the name of Muhammad Adil. The second is this man called Arbab Hussain.
He identifies himself as Arbab Hussain, right?
Yes. This person is supposed to be from India.
Yeah.
And with him is a third gentleman called Hussain Mohammed,
right,
who hovers over the screen and whose face never appears. Like essentially it's just his torso whenever the camera is pointed at him.
Right.
He is from Syria. So what we see is this small group of volunteers that have arrived to join the fight on part of the Russian ground forces.
Right. And how lucrative is it to fight as volunteers?
So there have been several stories. Al Jazeera famously did an investigation where then they talked about a 2,500 euro package, and which will be supposedly a one-off payment to volunteers. Furthermore, last year, I believe in September 2022, President Putin actually passed a decree that would expedite the granting of Russian citizenship for volunteers for the Russian ground forces.
Right.
Other than that, TikTok also has a couple of other, interesting things that we can look at. There is a contract which is being circulated with the signature of President Putin, and that speaks of a 2,700 euro payment, or one-off payment.
Right. But what are the implications of this, Deepak, when you have Indian volunteers fighting there? There were some in the Ukrainian military as well, right, last year?
So,
do we know what happened to them?
We know that there was this young 21-year-old student who had once actually applied for the Indian Army.
Right.
And he was studying engineering at the Kharkiv University. And once the war broke out, he actually became a volunteer on the Ukrainian side.
Right.
Now, Indians going off and fighting in foreign wars is a relatively rare phenomena. This is
but we've had Indians going and fighting in ISIS.
Yes,
let's not forget there have
that we
been
did.
a number of volunteers.
Yeah, about, I believe, a number between 20 and 30.
15 or 20, and majority of them are from Kerala.
Yes. So it's just that. Other than that, like Indians going off to fight in foreign wars is usually something we don't hear about. It's a first world phenomena that you would maybe attribute to people in Britain, Scandinavia, disaffected youth in the US, who've gone off to fight in, say, Afghanistan and Syria, all through the Arab Spring. But Indians going off is really like something that's, unheard of.
But Deepak, that video also mentions there are 2 other Indian volunteers there, right?
So the video comes with a caption called 3 volunteers, 3 Indians rather.
Right.
But this is a little bit in doubt because of I believe the translation, there may be some errors. Because the Russian speaker, the man we identify as the Russian man, he asks one of them if he's from Somalia. Right. And then the third person, he asks if he is a Syrian.
Right.
While Arbab Hussain points to himself and one more person as Indians.
Right.
Another thing is that the lady says that she knows 2 of the 3 from before. Right. Arbab is new to her. So there's that. But there are a number of things that we have no clue about.
Right.
For instance, where is the video being shot at?
Yes.
Incidentally, the last word, something called Blagodaria, it's a greeting, which is common in, say, Belarus and Russia. It's an old Russian word.
Right.
So this is how the video ends. We can, it can be speculation, but they may be somewhere on the Russian front, on the side of Belarus.
Right.
Because Belarus has been incidentally a training center.
Yes.
Even for the Wagner Group.
For the Wagner Group, that's right. And they've had...
furthermore, like TikTok videos have shown Nepalese, volunteers training in Belarus. Yeah. So that could be another clue.
Right. But Nepalese volunteers have been there, several of them. In fact, some have been captured by the Ukrainians.
Some have died as well.
And someone died in combat. But Indian volunteers, as Deepak has mentioned, is a very unique phenomenon. Interesting story. Remains to be seen how credible this video is. This 2-minute video that's surfaced on Telegram and hotly being discussed and debated on by a lot of military enthusiasts. That's a story we're going to be looking at very closely. The Indians at war in Ukraine on both sides, first Ukraine and now Russia. Chinese President Xi Jinping has said China and Taiwan will surely be reunified. Now this is a distinct change in his tone from last year when Xi said China and Taiwan were part of the same family. Now the CIA predicts that Xi will invade Taiwan before 2027. We leave you with a story on what Taiwan could do if it disagrees with Xi Jinping's reunification plan. Wish you all a healthy and happy 2024. Do watch News9 Plus. Thanks for watching.
By going to war against Ukraine, Russia proved to the world the extent it was willing to go to protect its own interests. Interests which sought to pulverize Ukraine's gradual warming up to the West and thereby maintaining a sphere of influence over the region. The writing on the wall could not have been more clear. Putin was gradually building up men and machines primed for battles along Russia's border with Ukraine. This went on for almost a year before Moscow gave the go-ahead in February. despite the many experts who continued to insist that a hot war wouldn't at all be likely.
News9 Plus. Download now.